So it is 11 years since the Glazer family took a controlling stake in Manchester United Football Club. Over recent times, all of the brunt of fans' frustration has been levelled at Louis van Gaal. But we were wondering, after such a long period of control from the Americans, if that's fair and if perhaps there are people further up the line who deserve the more criticism.
I know what you're saying, mate. The dinner ladies.
Not necessarily dinner ladies.
One of the dinner ladies been cooking them that's made them so crap.
We've got Ian sat here next to me. We've got Greg from Squawker. We've got Howson and Mac. And we will start by looking at what's been happening on the pitch. Over the last 11 years, Adam, we'll start with you. Has the investment we've seen, has the trophies we've won, do you think what we're seeing is right for a club the size of Manchester United? We're competing, or is it not good enough? Is it the Glazers' fault? Is it above the head of Louis van Gaal?
First, before I go on and say anything else, I want to say, and I think everyone agrees on this, we're not complaining about this season based on the Glazers alone. So, like, we're not moaning about the Glazers just because we finished outside the top four. It's been something we've not been happy with for a long, long time. Whilst I think Louis van Gaal should have had Manchester United performing better and our results should have been better, I think our decline in the last couple of years and since Fergie has left has ultimately been a result of the lack of investment that we've seen from the Glazers in their 11 years that they've been at the club. I mean, when you think about the same amount of money City have put into their investment into the area, into the club, into the training ground, academy, etc., the Glazers have taken out and put into debt repayments and their own pocket and stuff. So when you think about the way things are at the moment and the potential for clubs around us to pull away from us, you have to say then that Glazer lack of investment has ultimately hindered us. Yes, we've spent money. I know that. I hate when people say, oh, but you spent 50 million on Angel Di Maria and this, that, and the other. We're supposed to. And only now, since Sir Alex Ferguson has gone, have they realised they need to put their hands into their pocket. They were protected by Fergie's genius, by Fergie saying there's no value in the market. Do you remember that old fable? No value in the market, lads. So we can't get Luka Modrić, and now he's tearing it up at Real Madrid. No value in the market, so Lucas Moura goes to PSG. No value in the market, so we replace Cristiano Ronaldo with Gabriel Obertan and Antonio Valencia.
Obertan's great, though, isn't he?
Do you know what I mean? So yes, the Glazers have to take a large share of the blame for where we are at the moment. But ultimately, this season's performances have been as a result of the manager, I think.
So, Greg, Adam touched on it just then. How do you feel the transfer policy underneath the Glazer regime has been? Do you think we've been making the right signings, approaching the right kind of players, and in fact selling players for the right amounts of money? Because there's often criticism the United sell players far too cheap.
I think under Fergie, as Adam said, Fergie was a genius, and I think he made do with what he had. I mean, we still had, I think, one of the largest wage bills in the Premier League, but, I mean, our revenue was way above our competitors, so you could argue that we actually been underinvested even there. But I think we've seen the true kind of lack of quality with transfers since Fergie's left. For me, the Glazers have been style over substance. I mean, Matt is a very popular player, but I don't think he was the right guy we needed last January. Fellaini was just, what was that about? It's a terrible, terrible transfer window. And even Di Maria, how was such an individualist player like that ever going to fit under Van Gaal? There's just no thought put to it. And all the money that's put in, it's not from the Glazers. They're not investing their money. It's all just money that the club have already made, that they've made through commercial activities by the club's reputation, which they didn't build. So they're parasites. And I don't think you can really, give them a pat on the back for spending 60-odd million on Di Maria. Because as Adam said, that's the kind of money we should be able to drop, because look at the money we're bringing through into a club.
Yep. All right. Howson, trophies. Underneath the Glazers, do you think we are competitive enough? Do you think we've won as much as we should have been winning? Are we challenging as much as we should be challenging?
This is the one thing that people often level, and I see too much, like Greg just said, people sometimes say the Glazers have invested, and I have to go, whoa, let's just slow the bus down a little bit there, because they've invested nothing whatsoever, literally nothing. Us lot here might as well have bought them for how much that they've invested into the club. They've literally just got the biggest, fattest loans out and then started taking it out and paying themselves quite handsome sums on the back of it as well. The trophies that we've won under the Glazer regime have been in spite of the Glazers, not because of the Glazers.
Yes.
the early couple of years under the Glazers, we had the basis of a decent team, and it just needed a couple of key components added to it. Rooney was already there, Ronaldo was already there, Rio was already there. Vidic and Evra came in 6 months after the takeover was completed. Van der Sar not so long after. That was the basis of the team that went on to compete in 3 Champions League finals. That was not because of Glazer investment, Glazer ownership, or anything like that. That was purely down to Sir Alex Ferguson. And as Adam's already touched on, in 2009, when we sold Cristiano Ronaldo for what now seems a ridiculously low amount of a world record fee, we replaced him with 2 free transfers and Antonio Valencia, who's been a decent servant for the club. But he's not winning a Ballon d'Or, is he? And there's no way that we call ourselves one of the biggest clubs in the world, and we are one of the biggest clubs in the world, but we don't act like one of the biggest clubs in the world. Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Manchester United, that is one bracket of football teams that we are in, whether we like it or not, and where our current position is, we are in that bracket. And you do not see Barcelona replacing a Ballon d'Or winning player with someone from Wigan.
You don't. That doesn't happen very often. Ian, how do you feel about management and how things are working on the pitch this season, last season, and generally underneath the Glazers?
Well, I think the thing that everyone seems to be saying is that, like, the Glazers coming in, that you almost didn't like notice it for the first few years because you have Sir Alex Ferguson and the team that he'd built and how he manages his players. Like, everyone was always saying, like, last time we won the league, it was like, this is the weakest United side to win the Premiership. And maybe it was, but we still won the Premiership by quite a comfortable distance. And that's probably down to Sir Alex Ferguson. But I think towards the end of Ferguson's reign, it's like replacing Cristiano Ronaldo with those transfers. There was too many times where we would buy players and you'd kind of be thinking, like, oh, what, like, you know, that's maybe not a sign we were hoping for. This is a lot of money for someone. Like, even people like Zaha, like, there's so many disappointing transfers. And I don't think we in any way, like, when we were getting a new manager in, I don't think the Glazers were really being, like, serious about that process. I think they were allowing, like, Moyes to come in, not backing him in the transfer market at all. I guess I'm going into that instead of, like, what's happening on the pitch and stuff. But I think that's the main thing, that at the minute we're kind of laughable, really. We're getting a bit abused in the transfer market because people know that we have money, but also, and the thing that I really don't like is that I think people see United as desperate now. We're desperate to get back into the Champions League, so we will pay over the odds. So you can screw us over, make us pay a lot, and then, when you want to sell a player, like, you know, we'll sell Fellaini for 5 or 8 million, having bought him for 28. We'll sell Nani for barely anything. People know that they can just say, you've got the money, you can do what you want. And there's no, like, leadership on a business level that is getting, like, good people in. We're just reduced to those, like, marquee signings that don't fit. Like, I don't know. I think on every level at the minute, it's a bit of a mess. But yeah, we should be making top 4, especially in this Premier League at the minute, because Man City aren't as good as they think they are. Arsenal have been so inconsistent. Tottenham and Leicester going ahead of the pack. Like, I kind of think it's unforgivable that we could still finish 7th. At this position.
All right, so let's look off the pitch at how things are being run at the club. Adam, if we talk...
Sorry guys, I usually make things funny, so it's like, bums and boobs. Just say that.
Cover it.
Keep it funny.
Just in case people thought you got too serious.
Yeah, bums and boobs, guys.
You're still the same old Ian.
Imagine a pair of boobs on a bum. Anyway, the Glazers are messing us up.
So if we look now at what's happening off the pitch, the infrastructure at Manchester United, if we start, Adam, with the youth setup, this season has been a bit of a win for Louis van Gaal in terms of the younger players. But is there a fear that today's young players are tomorrow's Adnan Januzaj?
I think as long as you've got a good first team manager, then the players that are at under 18 to under 21 level will always get a chance. But I think the lack of investment, obviously, in the academy hasn't helped us as well. When you look at the way when Paul McGuinness left, he wasn't replaced for how long?
He's not been replaced.
He's not being replaced,
Not currently, not permanently anyway.
Well, there you go. I think ultimately they haven't got enough football people in positions to make decisions. Glazers don't have a clue about football. Ed Woodward doesn't have a clue about football. The only people that know anything about football at our club are Sir Bobby Charlton and Sir Alex Ferguson, and I don't really trust their judgment, to be totally honest with you. So it comes down to then who's making these decisions and what's going on. And I think there's been a huge void in Manchester United of there's no one making decisions. That's why I kind of feel sorry for Louis van Gaal as well at times, that he's the only guy that makes football decisions at Manchester United. That's crazy. Do you know how big our club is? The club's one of the biggest in the world, and we don't have owners who are interested in. I only think they invest so much as to what they see on the back end of it. Now, if they invest in our academy, they don't see money coming back in for it. Obviously, when we sell players, so on and so forth. And I think that's ultimately the reason. They'll only spend money to make money. And yeah.
Greg, how do you see that, what Adam's touching on there about the way the club is run as a business? Do you think that's something that's a positive for the club, or do you think it can only be a negative?
I think, to touch kind of what Adam was saying there, I think the thing with United under the Glazers, they try to look to be seen to be doing the right thing rather than actually doing the right thing.
Yeah.
I mean, commercially, it's been fantastic. That's been driven out of necessity due to the debt that they put on the club. If they didn't go and get all those deals, we'd have drowned by now. Like, it's United are out there for money coming in, but that's a happy byproduct of our brand that we've already had and the success we've had way before the Glazers. It's just they haven't put any of their own money into it. As Housen said, it's money. It's other people's money that they've got and put in, and they're making United sweat like an asset. They're not running it like a football club. And I think you can just look at what's happened with Ed Woodward. He's come in and he's from a financial background in the city, and at one point he was the acting head of the academy. What's that about? That's ridiculous. So like I said before, I think they're a parasitic influence on United, and they don't get the details right. They don't seem to know what they're doing in terms of actually how to run the football side of things. And we've got two boards with 3 different factions as well. We've got a commercial board and the football board. And, I mean, look at Bayern Munich. They've got Franz Beckenbauer on their board as their Sir Bobby Charlton. But he's more of a figurehead. He's more like an honorary president. I mean, Bobby Charlton's done great things in football, but look at the guy's age. You've got to get younger people in. Why are we not bringing through ex-players to sit on the board? Have a bit of continuity. Have like a legacy going through. Again, Bayern Munich, they've got so many ex-players running the club at commercial levels, at football levels. Why is it that we only look at ex-players and think, oh, they can be coaches, they can be managers? Why don't we look at Rio Ferdinand. He's launched his own magazine, he's got all this stuff. Why are we not keeping this talent and kind of letting the players govern the club more? They've got the insight, they've been there, they've won it. Why aren't we using those kind of guys to bring them in? And I just think it's because the Glazers, they just want to build it around, I say, sweating the asset. They get their financial people in to do all that kind of stuff, how they want it to be done, to penny pinch and bring the profit in, and just be seen to be doing the right thing without actually making decisions to actually make us better on the pitch.
Okay. Housen, a wonderful opportunity for you now to tell us exactly how much money the Glazers are robbing.
Right, do you know what really annoys me is people going about how much United spend, how much United have spent in the last 3 transfer windows, and why that's a problem for Louis van Gaal, right? Well, let me throw some figures at you. Since the Glazers have been in charge, we've got a net spend of 336 million, right? Now, that sounds like a lot of money, but they've been here 11 years. So that's £33 million in a window or in a season, right? That's not enough to keep any team competitive.
And the large majority of that's been recently. Sorry, Steve.
Yeah, and the vast majority of that has been weighed heavily towards since Sir Alex Ferguson has left, right? Now, if you think that's a lot of money, and it's not a lot of money comparative to what the club makes, here's what we've spent on debt. We have spent £1 billion on debt, refinancing the debt and interest payments, because we also had to pay a bond when we refinanced the debt about 4 years ago or 3 years ago.
And money going into their pockets.
They've also taken out ridiculous wages. They're on more than anybody else at the club for just doing nothing. They've taken out $1 billion. Think about this, right? Now, instead of investing 30 million into the club every transfer window, or not even every transfer window, every season. Yeah, so it's 15 million a transfer window. What's that going to get you? Another Zaha. Sweet, right? Instead of investing 30 million in that time, we could have invested 130 million every single transfer window since 2005. Where would we be now? We'd be on about 25 championships and at least 6 European Cups, I would have thought. Now, the club has got 68 commercial partners. Club revenue has grown 250%. Season tickets have gone up between 60 and 75%. The club is making more money than we ever have, and only now have they started to invest the money. We had a negative spend right up until one of the last couple of years of Sir Alex Ferguson's reign. Most of that was due to selling Cristiano Ronaldo, but we still made and sold Cristiano Ronaldo. Where was the thought into doing that again? We are only looking at bringing in a director of football right now. Sir Alex Ferguson was a director of football who coached the team. He did it all. So when he left, there was a vacuum. And this is the problem that I've had with United all the time. There's no planning. Whether you agree that Pep Guardiola is the best thing since the sat-nav and the internet, whether you agree that Bayern Munich are getting rid of all the coaches that they get rid of all the time and having this cycle of 2 to 3 years, they've got directors of football in place that are planning what's going on. There's talk that City knew that they was getting Guardiola while Mancini was still in charge. So that means that they knew they had Mancini, they had a guy coming in, and then they had a guy coming in. That's planning. Now, whether that was good planning or bad planning, you think they've achieved or overachieved or underachieved in that time, they still had planning. What happened when Sir Alex Ferguson left? He went and knocked on David Moyes' door and went, "You're the new manager." Not, "Would you like to come and interview for potentially the biggest job in the world?" He went, "You're the manager." And David Moyes didn't even say yes. He said, "Okay." Right? Now, what happened with Louis van Gaal? There might have been an interview process, but that's never been leaked. That's never been... There's nothing ever come out that we interviewed 5 or 6 people. If we'd have come out and said, "Listen, we interviewed 5 or 6 people and that was our guy," sweet. And if it didn't work out, no problem, because we feel like the process works. Now it's coming to the end of Louis van Gaal's reign, whether that's this season or next season when his contract actually expires. And we don't appear to have any process in place. There's talk of this kid Bertra coming in from Atletico. I like the idea of that because that tells me that there's a football man that's going to be sitting on the board with some power. And if he's sitting on the board with some power, then we might have a plan going forward. There might be a guy that's doing the planning, some guy that we've never heard of, but I would just feel more warm.
There's no evidence of it.
Yeah, I would just feel better inside if I knew that someone was doing all this planning. If there was a guy coming out and saying, "Here's what Manchester United are doing." One of the academy parents told me that there was a meeting that they had a couple of months ago where they outlined what's going to happen with a potential stadium, what's going to happen with investment in the academy, and it all sounded great. But why is that just contained to the academy parents? Why is that not being made public?
I mean, I don't think any of us know, if I'm honest.
No, this is what I'm saying. What if they don't help themselves? They
Ultimately, the club don't care about the fans though as well.
Our side of doing the right things down. They don't seem to know what they're doing, and I don't think they seem to care. But they might do, and that's the thing. Some owners, there's some owners that come out and say all the right things and then are still doing the dirt underneath. Well, the Glazers might be actually doing some of the right things underneath, but they don't outwardly project that they're doing the right things. And like Manchester City are getting praised left, right and centre for all this stuff with the academy and all the stuff with their future planning for their squad. Their squad's a horrible age. Everyone's on the wrong side of 30. They've got no progression in their first 11, but no one's picking up on that because their owners are receptive to the press. They'll talk to the press, and as a result, they get decent press. United are getting hammered in the press when it's not even justified half the time.
Well, that was fun. Ian, famously, you love a commercial seal.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you feel the commercial assets are running?
Well, the commercial side of it, I guess, it can only be a good thing if you're making commercial links that are bringing in money. But what shouldn't be happening is that shouldn't be the only positive. Because basically, because we're not performing on the pitch and because we're not winning trophies, all the commercial side of it becomes laughable. Like when you sign a drink sponsorship in Nigeria or a tyre sponsorship, all the press are then doing with that is going oh, good news, United fans, we've got a Nigerian soft drink, but they're like 5th in the league. Like, if all of that stuff was going on behind the scenes, great, I guess, because it's bringing in money and you're using the brand, maybe like other clubs aren't, and you're getting a shit ton of money that we can invest into a squad. But then we're investing it badly and we're performing badly on the pitch. So I get those things, I guess, aren't important, but they get picked up so much. It can only be a good thing if we're making money, basically, but because of how the club is doing, all of that stuff is laughable.
Yeah.
If Liverpool at the minute were sort of saying we've just got ourselves a noodle sponsor, I'd be like, yeah, you're 7th or 8th or something that shouldn't be the thing you're shouting out about. I think that's probably what annoys United fans more than the fact that we're getting those commercial things. It's the fact that we're getting them but not getting the football side of it. If both of them were working at the same time, you'd be like, this is brilliant, the football's going well.
And we're getting noodles.
Yeah, we're getting money from a noodle company. What are the benefits really to that noodle company?
Well, they were founded by Mama Andu.
Mama Andu, God rest his soul.
Yeah, he's dead.
But yeah, it's like, I don't mind about all that. I just think there's football stuff which is more important.
Yeah.
And that should be sorted before we have a noodle partner.
Are you saying more than noodles, or the football's more important than Mama Andu?
Oh no, okay, so noodles first, then football, and then everything else.
Where are you putting Mama Andu?
Mama Fuku died, mate.
I just think it's worth remembering him. Great guy. Now, let's talk about your friend of mine, Ed Woodward. Ridiculous name. Adam, how do you feel Woodward's relationship is with the fans? How do you feel his relationship is with his contemporaries at Manchester United and the media?
I don't think the club have any relationship with the fans, to be totally honest, apart from the fact they see us all as customers. I don't think there's a healthy connection there at all between the fans. And maybe if they embrace the fans a little bit more, be a bit more receptive to them. Ed Woodward isn't a football man. We've got more commercial sales than we've got league goals this season. Think about that. 46 league goals. How many commercial sales we got?
68.
Fuck's sake.
Including a tractor.
Ed Woodward isn't a football man. And I think whilst he does a lot and he brings in a lot of money in terms of commercial revenue for the club, which is great, in this day and age, you need to be commercially successful to succeed as a football club. That's fantastic. But I do think you need someone alongside him or above him that's, well, not above him, but alongside him that's helping him make these football decisions. He's completely out of his depth when it comes to that. We've kind of seen a scattergun approach we've taken to making decisions since Sir Alex Ferguson's left, and it hasn't helped us at all. Even still at the moment, whilst I agree with the club not coming out and saying, "Oh, Louis van Gaal is going to get sacked," or whatever, Jose Mourinho is coming in, whatever. I can understand why you wouldn't do that now. But what is crazy is Manchester United fans wouldn't be surprised to see us make a bad decision in the summer, and it kind of shows us where we've gotten to with the club. We expect bad decisions every summer. Every time we link with a player and it's a true link, we expect the deal to fall through because...
Like Sanchez and Hummels going to Bayern as well.
Yeah, I don't even care about names because who knows if, Sanchez might not have been coming to Man United. We might never have been signing him anyway. But the fact that is, every time we are linked with a player, and we go for them, we don't get them the large majority of the time, unless we're the only ones in for them. Angel Di Maria came to United. He didn't want to come to United. He came to United because he had to wait for a year to go PSG. Radamel Falcao. Can you imagine if there was a number of clubs chasing after Radamel Falcao? Would we have signed him? No. Are you mad? We can't sign players. We don't know how to. We haven't got anyone that makes footballing decisions and makes them properly. And we'll suffer because of that. That's why, I like Louis van Gaal. He's a guy that we could do with in the running of our club. Maybe not as our manager, but I really genuinely believe someone like Louis van Gaal needs to be in there, making decisions for the academy, for the first team, overseeing things, speaking to football players. Like a football guy just to speak to someone and say, sign for us. We'll make you amazing, mate. We'll make you world class. We'll show you that we want you. We don't seem to do that either. You hear about, obviously it's further back. Aaron Ramsey, he came to Old Trafford, he met Gary Neville. You know what I mean? And then he went to Carrington and he met... Now, I know Gary Neville's a football guy, but it's just the treatment of footballers, the treatment of fans, the treatment of fans as customers. And the ultimate fact is we don't have anyone that can make football decisions and make them right. He's great making commercial decisions, not football ones.
Okay, Greg, how do you feel about Ed Woodward and what he's doing? Because his relationship with the fans, to me, seems to be... it's like a coin, isn't it? 1 minute he's trending because we've signed somebody and there's endless sort of pictures of him with cigars and sunglasses on. Everybody absolutely loves him. And the next minute, if we haven't signed somebody, he is the most hated man on earth.
I think that the latter is kind of the norm, and then if he does something a bit fancy, he gets a few good headlines. But I don't think there's been a lot of trust from the very start. just because I mean he just didn't quite fit the part even when he first came in. He just looked a bit awkward. But I mean, I think the best way I put it is David De Gea is great in goal, but I mean, people have joked saying he's Spanish, let's play him in midfield. But if you actually played him in midfield, it'd be terrible. Ed Woodward is world class at getting deals in. How many? Like, do we say 68 deals? I mean,
68 commercial partners, including selling a training ground, naming rights. That's on a private road that no one's even allowed to.
Absolutely. So he is incredible at what he does, but what he does is commercial stuff. He's been acting head of the academy at certain points during the Glazers' reign. That's ridiculous. What does he know about running an academy? What does he know about football? Why is he being our acting director of football and seeing through deals and looking at how to get players into the club? It just doesn't make any sense. He should be left to his own devices on the commercial side, and we get in a director of football. I mean, or even we said about Gary Neville and people like that. Why have they been allowed to leave the club? Again, going back to Bayern Munich, they should have been retained. I'm not saying to become coaches. Why don't we train up to be directors or train up to kind of govern the club as well?
Isn't Van der Sar a marketing director at Ajax?
Exactly. You don't. This idea that footballers either become pundits or coaches, we have to smash that idea. Because in Europe, loads of Italian players are going to become directors of football and all this other kind of stuff. It's same in Germany, same in France, same in Spain. I don't know why in England it's coaching or punditry.
Well, it's worth remembering that Quinton Fortune and Mikel Sylvester are both acting ambassadors for Manchester United. So
again, that's commercial stuff. I don't think they have much say in the actual football side of things.
No.
I think they're just used as faces to just sell more branding stuff. I mean, that's a waste of time. I mean, they can do that, but why don't you also get them, coming in and be an example to the squad and stuff? I know they do have some communication, but I don't think it's one of their primary roles. I mean,
Bryan Robson, one of the best captains England's has ever had, one of the best captains United's ever had. Do you know what he's doing? He's like shaking hands and signing footballs in Indonesia and stuff like that. He's working for the club. I'm sure if you was brought to the club and Bryan Robson was to show you around, you'd be like, where do I sign?
100%. I mean, again, Bryan Robson, he's not only an ex-player, he's an ex-manager. And okay, we can say he wasn't as successful as a manager as a player. But again, in Italy, in Germany, if you're a player and you try and become a coach or a manager, you don't quite make it, you're often given another chance to become a director of football because you've still got that football knowledge. You've got that experience of how to do deals, talk to people in the game, talk to players, link it all up. Why are we not saying to Robbo, like, do you have a chance at being Ed Woodward's, like, football man for a bit? I'd love that. I mean, Cantona, get Cantona in as before Zidane took over as manager at Real Madrid, before he was assistant manager, he was the guy picking up the phone to pick up Rafael Varane going, don't go to Man United, come and play under me at Real Madrid, I'll be there, we'll have a chat, it'll be great, mate. Why don't we get Cantona sitting there on the phone at Old Trafford saying to people,
Cantona as philosopher of football.
It'd be amazing.
Can you imagine Cantona phones you up and says, come play for United? Can you
Absolutely.
imagine? You could have a Liverpool tattoo and you'd be like, I might, you know what? Oh.
All right.
Exactly. Imagine how good that would be. And that's why I don't understand why we've let all these guys go off into punditry and doing their own thing. We should have done more effort to keep them in. Ed Woodward, stick him in the commercial side and get people who know football to do the football stuff.
Howson, we've heard a lot about what Ed Woodward isn't doing and where he's limited.
A lot of it's the newspapers. We're linked to 200 players last summer transfer window, and we signed 7, which means that 97% of them are rubbish. Think of that. Think of them figures. 97% of what you read in the papers is bullshit. Only 3% of them come off. If I was to give you a ham sandwich that was 3% shit, would you eat it?
Well, I wouldn't eat it anyway.
Are you saying Man United are the horse meat scandal? Is that what we are?
The next point I was going to bring up was the club's relationship with the fans, but I think that was pretty well covered while we discussed Ed Woodward, wasn't it? We all sort of agreed that there is no relationship.
They don't care about the fans. They're so out of touch with the fans. They asked Manchester United match-going fans at Anfield to all wear white jerseys. Are you taking the piss? Do you know anything about your own fan base? Really? How can you even suggest that? But can you imagine 1,000 United fans walking across Stanley Park in white Adidas tops?
Would you say that?
Adidas
Adam, just as you've brought that up, do you think though that should, because we're going to talk about the future now, and use this as a springboard to push into that, please. Do you think that gesture shows that although wrong and misguided, the club are perhaps changing their approach to fans? Because that's not something we've seen before.
No, if they wouldn't have gave him away if they could have sold him. I guarantee that. If they had the same amount of buyers waiting to make them orders, they would have shipped them off to them and thought, forget the match-going fans, we don't need to get them.
So someone opened an ISO container and went, Christ, look how many shirts there is.
Yeah.
My dear Brad, I know.
Yeah. Simple. They tried to make a marketing scheme out of one of our biggest games of the season, have our away stand, basically advertise their away kit. It didn't happen. They're so out of touch with the fans. It's unbelievable. Even with us, we know what happens with us all the time. We're a fan channel. We give fans a voice. We go to every game and we still get treated like shit when it comes to like access with players and stuff. Juan Mata putting his video up with us. That's just us. And then, the only thing they care about, and I need to try and word this properly because
you're about to get a nosebleed.
No, I'm not being critical of fans that aren't from England or don't go to matches. But I think the only fans they care about are fans abroad and maintaining that fan base. Because at the moment,
if you look at the fan events that they've done around the world, they've never done anything like that on a match day at the ground for the fans that are actually there week in, week out. Never. They've put them on in New York, they've put them on in South Africa, they've put them on in India, the Far East. They've never done a fan event.
And that's because they're losing fans in those places. Because we're shit now, they're losing fans in those places. So we need to keep them. We need to send Andy Cole and Dwight York over there to make them think, oh yeah, we're still close to the club. But they don't have that relationship with the fans on the ground, the fans at the games. They're out of touch morons. They only care about things that's going to make them money, ultimately.
Okay. Some final thoughts then, guys. Where do we see the future? Glazers out, Glazers in, some sort of fan ownership scheme, Glazer...
You're going to need $2 billion to buy them out. They rejected a $1.5 billion deal. That's $1.5 billion profit, basically, for them because they've done nothing for that. They put their name on a bit of paper and then put all the debt on the club. It's the biggest shill in the world. And they turned that down, and that was from the Red Knights and I think a guy from Abu Dhabi, not the City types, another type. There's quite a few wedged up dudes in Abu Dhabi. So you're gonna need $2 billion to buy them out. And even with all the fans that we've got, we couldn't afford to buy them out. There's not that sort of liquid capital
I haven't got $2 billion.
about. I've not got $2 billion kicking around. Like there's no way you're gonna be able to buy them out. I don't know how you're gonna do it. I really don't know how you're going to do it. It's going to have to be some oil baron or some crazy nutcase like Abramovich that does it. Or the club's going to have to plummet so much that the value comes off us entirely. And that's going to be even worse.
Well, that's encouraging, isn't it? All right, guys, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much. Let us know how you feel about the Glazers, what you think about the points that have been raised here. I think certainly in reference to the finances, Howson made some very interesting points. Get in the comments below. Let us know your opinions. Thank you very much, everybody. Ian, anything you want to add?
Can I finish on this as well?
Go on.
Sam?
Go on.
The debt, right? We've paid $1 billion off the debt in 11 years. The debt still stands at $300 million.
Brilliant.
Wankers.
Brilliant.
Oh, it's been a tough video. If you've watched all of this, go cheer yourself up.
Yeah.
20 transfer windows worth of debt.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Solid maths from Greg. That's why he's at Squawker. Right, see you later, guys. Hello and welcome to another momentous Points of View. Like, points of view, but I'll stop explaining it now. Howson, look, instead of Ian, if you hadn't noticed.